Life Unrehearsed, brought to you by Leanna Senior Transition Support, specialists in downsizing and seniors residences.
And good afternoon. Welcome to Life Unrehearsed. My name is Matt Del Vecchio, specializing in life transitions, downsizing, and the senior living industry. My co-host, Corey Sirota, is off today. Coming right up on the first half of today's show, Anthony Calvillo will be joining us. Besides his illustrious football career, AC has had to overcome several personal battles, including his wife's cancer diagnosis and his own bout with cancer in the midst of his football career. He'll be sharing his life story as well as his recent advocacy work to combat domestic violence. And on the second half, we'll hear about the hottest issues facing the 50 and over crowd. We'll have Giselle Tassé-Goodman. She's the president of Réseau FADOC on the show. FADOC is the largest network in Canada for those 50 and over, with 550,000 members, and they're based right here in Quebec, and that's coming up after the 4:30 news. What a spectacular day today weather-wise. Everyone seems to be feeling good. The COVID cases remain steady. We had over 100,000 vaccinations, and hospital and ICU admissions were down slightly. So we're not out of the woods yet, but there's certainly a sense of optimism in the air. And speaking of optimism and a great attitude, I'm very happy to have Anthony Calvillo on the line. Many of you may know Anthony for his outstanding football career and community work. However, he has indeed had a life unrehearsed, and we're going to hear all about it. Anthony, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Matt. Thanks for having me.
Well, thank you for doing this. We really do appreciate it. Many of us know about your professional career, but I want to go way back, Anthony, back to your younger years. A lot of people don't know about your younger years, and can you tell us about childhood and growing up?
Well, I'm originally from Los Angeles, California, so I grew up actually in East Los Angeles for the first 5 years, and then our family moved out to an area called La Puente, California, and that's where I grew up. So I had two brothers and a sister, and from a young age we were always involved in sports. Like, we all played baseball, basketball, football, and we ran track at the same time. So whenever the new sport came up, whatever season it was, we got into it right away. So, and it was fun because we were always, if there was a new developing area, and with a lot of the young kids who were hungry to play sports.
And having those siblings to push you make you a little better. I'm sure didn't hurt at all as you approached the school and college years. Tell us a little bit about that. Where and when did you go to college?
Yeah, so, I stayed, like I said, in Southern California, went to La Puente High School where I grew up. Once I was done there, I didn't get a scholarship to go to Division I program, but I went to the local junior college, which was Mount San Antonio Junior College. So I played there for 2 years. And then after that, there were a few teams that were looking to recruit me to play football. And I decided to attend Utah State, who offered me the football scholarship. And there's a couple of reasons why I chose Utah State. One, it was the closest university to California that was close enough so my family could come see me play. And then, there was a specific coach, a guy named Jim Zorn, who was going to be my offensive coordinator, and I heard a lot of great things about him. So that's when I ended up going and attending Utah State.
All right. That's Anthony Calvillo here on Life Unrehearsed. And after Utah State, I guess NFL wasn't in the cards, but you did make it north to the Canadian Football League. Who was your first team?
My first team was the Las Vegas Posse. When I came out of university, you're right. I was very small. I knew that the NFL was not looking at me, especially at that particular time. So my plan was to go back and coach and teach in the area where I grew up. But then I started hearing about this league up in Canada, and I was very fortunate when I came out in 1994 that the CFL expanded into the U.S., and they had one team in Las Vegas, and Las Vegas is the team that ended up signing me. So that's where I started my career.
Start there, and then eventually made it, of course, to the Montreal Alouettes. When you say you're too small at 6'1", it just goes to show how big these guys are. Now you made it to Montreal, and you know what? You are a very humble man, Anthony. You are known for that. So I'm just going to rattle off a few of the stats throughout your career. 3 Grey Cup championships, a Grey Cup MVP in 2002. You were the CFL's most outstanding player award 3 times. You were professional football's all-time passing yards leader for a decade, recently surpassed by Drew Brees. And the one stat that I found out there, which I was amazed, just one of 9 professional quarterbacks to have completed over 400 touchdown passes. If I'm not mistaken, it was 455 for you, Anthony. And let's just hear some of those other names that you are accompanying with. Brett Favre, Warren Moon, Peyton Manning, Dan Marino, Tom Brady, Drew Brees, Phillip Rivers, and Aaron Rodgers, just to name a few. Pretty good company there, Anthony. Such a career. But like you say, it's not about the God-given talent. You worked your butt off. You are known for your incredible work ethic, and you did earn every yard and TD pass. However, I'm going to put you on the spot here. If you had to choose 1 or 2 most memorable moments, Anthony, what would they be?
Well, when it comes to football, I'm always going to remember the first championship that we won here in the city back in 2002. That's the one thing that every team, player, coach, quarterback, that's their main objective, is to play in that last game and bring that trophy home. So when we won it there in 2002, we were really looking forward to come back and honestly celebrate in the city, because we know that Montreal loves to have a good time. And we were just looking forward to a parade, because, you win a championship, the next thing is you have a parade. And I'm getting the chills think about it, because, I wasn't expecting, in the middle or in late November, early December, having all these hundreds of thousands of fans down on St. Catherine, pretty much from Crescent Street to the city core, just lined up with just people to celebrate a championship. So as much as it was a championship for us, we were able to share that and experience that with the fans. And that's something I'm never going to forget.
Unbelievable. I remember it well, 2002. And boy, oh boy, we could use a parade. I think it might be a little while before we have an actual parade like that. But fingers crossed. Now, we're going to take a little turn because in October 2007, talk about a life unrehearsed, Anthony, your second daughter was born. And 1 week later, your wife, Alexia, was diagnosed with B-cell lymphoma and non-Hodgkin's cancer. 1 week after the birth of your second daughter. She was diagnosed on a Monday, and chemotherapy started on a Friday. Just really unbelievable. And let's not forget, you're the quarterback of the Montreal Alouettes, and the season is still on. How in the world did you and your wife handle all this?
Well, yeah, it was definitely shocking. My wife had some challenges after giving birth, and she had issues breathing when she would, just walk up the stairs. And so we got an X-ray, and that's when they found the mass. And really, it just changes your world, because, here you're supposed to be enjoying life and celebrating the birth of your second daughter. That's what it was for us. But now all of a sudden it's like, okay, this is what you have: large B-cell lymphoma, non-Hodgkin's. These are the steps that we feel that is best to attack it. So, like you mentioned, there was chemotherapy, there was radiation therapy. So there was definitely a lot to deal with. But I was always looking back at it, very impressed with the strength that my wife had. We were always trying to stay positive, where she could build strength off of us, but it was really the opposite. It was us building strength from her, which was so encouraging. So she fought, she battled, and like you said, for me, there was no way that I was going to be able to concentrate in trying to finish the season out, because we had 2 or 3 games left, and I basically told the organization that I just can't do this at this time. I got to be by my wife's side, because we still had another child at home that we had to take care of as well. So there was so much going on, and I just knew for myself that I just could not put everything that I needed to do to play football because my mind and my concern was somewhere else.
Well, it goes to show the man that you are. You took a leave of absence to support your wife and your family. Again, remembering here, your wife had just given birth to and having to go through all this. You're doing your best. I understand. Was it Alexia's mom that also helped out and got the? It is a village that has to help out in these situations, isn't it?
No, it definitely was. I mean, of course, Alexia's from Montreal, so her family's here. So they were. I mean, it was huge help, especially at the beginning because most of the time Alexia was in the hospital. I stayed with her in the hospital, and the family stayed here. But I could tell you this: once we were able to get back home and get into a routine, I have a lot of respect for women who have to stay up at night and feed the child and change them. And then do all those things because I was doing that for the first little while, and then I kind of I raised the white flag. I'm like, this is hard. I'm getting no sleep. It's difficult. So I asked for more help. So kudos for all the women out there who have done this year in and year out, where they do this. It's just part of the what they do for their young ones, but it was definitely a challenge.
Absolutely. That's Anthony Calvillo talking to us about his life story, and his life story continued. 3 years later, we're going to...
Life Unrehearsed, brought to you by Fleur-Lee Senior Residences. Always there for you. Safe, reassuring, and comforting. We call it home.
The story about Anthony's wife, Alexia, who was diagnosed with cancer a week after giving birth to your second daughter, Anthony. That was almost 14 years ago. How is Alexia doing now?
No, she's doing awesome. She's doing great. Everything's back to normal. She has her normal checkups that she goes once a year, but she is healthy and doing very well.
Oh, so good to hear. And your daughters are how old now? I guess one is 13, the youngest one?
That's it. So 13 and 15, they'll be 14 and 16 this year.
Oh, nice. All right. So if that wasn't enough, in 2010, a few years later, you sustained an injury to your sternum. I remember that. I was watching that game live, actually. And as it turned out, the doctors discovered a lesion on your thyroid, which turned out to be cancerous. Can you tell us about that time in your life?
Yeah, so basically you're right. I got injured during the game. After the game, they sent me to the hospital because I was in some serious pain, and then they took an X-ray of my chest area, and they determined that I had I fractured my first rib and bruised two other ribs. But in that same image, they saw a little nod. They saw something on my thyroid. So they basically, a few weeks later, they wanted to go and take a look at it. So they did a biopsy of it. And then about a week later, it came back with the results, and the results came back inconclusive. So basically, they weren't sure if it was cancer or benign. So they said the only thing that we have to do now is have surgery to remove half of my thyroid where the nodule is, to determine whether you have cancer or not. So there was a lot of information for me to process because I was dealing with trying to recover from this rib that I had fractured, and that was going to keep me out at least 1 month before I could return to the field. And then when the biopsy came back and the doctor says, listen, we could do this now or we could wait until after the season, we kind of sat down and thought about it, and we decided to wait until after the season to have surgery to figure out if I had cancer or not. So that's what the plan was, and it was a secret though. There's only a few people that knew what I was going through about my nodule, the chances of me having cancer or not. But for me, I knew so much more about cancer because of what, of course, Alexia went through.
Right.
So as I was doing my research, and I'm like, okay, if this does come back positive, it would probably be thyroid cancer. And when I did research on it, I'm like, well, it's not a really life-threatening cancer. The only thing that you would have to do is take this radioactive iodine. So I wasn't as scared or nervous about if I did have it. But again, I wasn't going to know until the season was over. So I really had football to distract me. Mm-hmm. But as I got closer to the end of the season, I started thinking about it a bit more, about the possibility of whether I might or might not have cancer. But I really had football as a distraction to not worry about it. But once I got close to the end of the season, it would pop up back in my head.
Just amazing, just listening to you. And you ended up getting treatments on the off season. You came roaring back the very next season with an incredible season, 32 touchdown passes, and it's just amazing if you think about just recovering from cancer. And I know you had mentioned many times that it was the support you had from your family was wonderful. I quickly want to go over to where you are today, Anthony, because you have taken on a coaching career. You are now at the University of Montreal Carabin, I believe, as the offensive coordinator and the quarterback coach. And I'm quite interested to hear your take on this, because I think this is a big part of who you are in trying to help mold young men.
Yeah, well, I mentioned many times before the people who helped me out. So where I mentioned where I grew up, I played sports. All those people that coached all the neighborhood kids were volunteer coaches, and they had a major impact on developing not only the football skills, but just the personal skills of these individuals. My high school coach was very important to me in terms of pushing me and believing that I had a chance to play Division I football. And the same thing when I got to university, Jim Zorn, when I was in college, he really not only taught me how to be a better quarterback, but to be a better man, to be a better husband, because of the example that he set for his family. He was like, Anthony, no matter what you did or what you saw growing up, you have a chance to make a major change in your life. So, like for me, like I said earlier, my plan was to go back and coach and teach in the area where I grew up, without playing any professional football. But of course, that changed. I came up here. So for me, it's always been deep in my heart that whatever city I'm in, I'm going to help out as much as I can. Mm-hmm. And now I'm in a position where I'm at the university level with young men, and all I'm doing is just sharing my experience with them, giving advice about what I did, the mistakes that I was able to overcome. But at the end of the day, believing in these young men and just trying to set the example for them. So it's very, very reassuring about where I'm at right now, because I've always felt that this is somewhere I wanted to be at this level.
Just amazing. That's Anthony Calvillo here on Life Unrehearsed. As I'm listening to you, I think of my dad. He was a football coach too, Anthony, and going way back to the North Shore Midget Mustangs in the 70s. And honest to goodness, just yesterday, one of those teammates, this is over 40 years ago, and he came up to me and says, your dad was so influential on me and our group of buddies, and they're still out there. And so you're so right, Anthony. It's good for you, at the university level, such crucial times for these young men. I have to ask you, are there any future plans, or are you taking things sort of month by month, day by day?
Yeah, that's been my whole life, to be honest with you, Matt. I've always kind of just taken it, 1 year at a time, focusing on what I could do now to be the best offensive coordinator, the best quarterback coach for these young men. And then, because if you could, in this profession, when you have success, it's when your team has success. So for me, that's what I'm trying to do, is just relay that message, push the young men so they could go out there and reach the level that as a teacher, as a coach, expects and could see in these young men. So that's what I'm trying to do. I never look down the road in terms of, okay, what am I going to be doing next year or 2 years from now? I just feel that if I could concentrate now to push these young men where we could have success, well, the rest is going to fall in place.
Oh, that's great. Are you going to get a season, you think, upcoming season, or is it still up in the air?
It's definitely still up in the air, but like you just mentioned earlier, things are looking a whole lot better with the vaccinations and the numbers going down and so forth like that. So we're all keeping our fingers crossed just to have some type of season, whether it's just playing here in Quebec and that's it. But we're just hoping that the guys are able to have some type of season.
It would be great. Anthony Calvillo, thank you so much for coming on the show, taking some time here on a Saturday to be with us.
No problem, man. Thanks for having me.
All right, thanks. That's Anthony Calvillo. What a gentleman, all around, nice guy, real inspiration to many, many people. And could you imagine those young men on the university team to get the experience and to hear from Anthony Calvillo? Congratulations.